Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this very relevant session on volunteering, leveraging people power for change. Today, we would like to explore and celebrate this incredible force that drives positive transformation in our communities and beyond. And this force is the power of volunteering. And you all know, of course, why India at 75 really pushes this power, and that is the power of volunteering. Volunteering is a cornerstone of social change. It is a great way to make human connections, and it's a catalyst for change also. So, in today's session, I would like us to reflect on the profound impact that individuals coming together for a common cause can have on our communities, whether it is building stronger communities, addressing social inequality, or championing environmental sustainability. Volunteers also step in whenever funds are running short or when you're completely out of funds, where more hands are required and more hearts are required also, and also to bring with them expertise that is often needed to address an issue. So today we will also delve into the various dimensions of volunteering, its significance, and how volunteers actually dedicate time and skills, and what a huge difference this makes. And we have with us a panel of very distinguished speakers who will shed light on the diverse ways by which volunteering actually manifests so much of positivity in our communities, from local grassroots efforts to large-scale projects. We will also explore how volunteering not only addresses immediate needs, but also contributes to long-term sustainable development. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you the panelists for this session. We have Ms. Preeti Khatri, who is the Managing Director, Strategy and Consulting, Talent and Organization for Accenture India. We have Mr. Chetan Kapoor, who is the Chief Executive Officer, Tech Mahindra Foundation. We have Mr. Abhimanyu Sahu, who is the Chief Operating Officer, Schneider Electric, and Dr. Vinita Sahai, who is the Director, IIM Bodh Gaya. I'm being very, very, frugal in my introduction, but I must tell you that they all have very, very illustrious profiles, and I really hope you will spare the time to actually read up more about them. But when you hear what they have to say, you will understand why it is that they are there on this panel. And they're all very firm believers in the power of volunteering and have shared their insights on this subject. I hope this session will be interactive, and I'm sure the participants will have questions, and I really hope that you will, take this opportunity to raise them. Feel free to mention them in the chat box. And if you have any specific panelists that you would want to raise the question to, you could please mention that also. We hope to also have a Q&A session at the end, and you could hang on to your questions till then also. So to set the tone for the discussions, I'm going to ask all the panelists to briefly first comment on one question, which is I'm going to raise as a common question to all of you, and that is, what do you see as the volunteering landscape in India when we turn 100? That is in the year 2047. How do you see volunteering evolving in the years that lead up to the year 2047? So Ms. Preeti, would you like to go first?
Sure. Thank you so much, Jayanti, for the lovely introduction. Very happy to be a part of this Zoom invite, and with all the other co-panelists. All of them are fairly senior, and it is a wonderful moment indeed. And even more so that we are discussing something as important as volunteering. The way I see it evolve, and I think I like to put it in simple language. Today, if we look at volunteering, it's more optional, if you will, from an India ecosystem perspective. And my ambition or dream, or at least hope, is that over the next few decades, it becomes a part of the lifestyle and ecosystem in organizations, in people, in governments, in the entire ecosystem that we run a country with. And I think this big shift from optional to integral part of the ecosystem is where the journey is. And I think that's important to discuss. I know we've been given a minute each, so that's my little bit, and then we can come to it further. Thank you.
Sure, that was actually a really good way to start this conversation too. Mr. Chetan, what would be your views on this question?
Thank you so much, Jayanti. And I have to start by thanking Team CII for giving me this opportunity to be here. And I'm really glad that we've picked up this topic about volunteering, because it's something which is very critical in terms of what we are doing in the social development sector. But I think the kind of discussion that needs to happen around this topic does not happen frequently. So, quick answer to your question, Jayanti. I see that by the year 2047, which is just over 2 decades from now, I certainly see India being more developed, more progressed. I see India more prosperous. I see India hopefully less unequal, more equal. And in all of this, I do see that more and more people are going to be more open to the idea of volunteering their time and effort, and even giving away part of their wealth for a good cause. So I'm quite optimistic about this, because we know that with all these changes that I just mentioned, as they come, the inclination of people in general to participate towards community development and the betterment of the society, that also increases. So I've seen this trajectory over the last 20 years that I've spent in this space, and I can clearly see that we've had a distinct change over these last 2 decades, and I'm quite optimistic about the next 2 decades as well.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chetan. Mr. Abhimanyu, how do you see this volunteering landscape changing?
Okay, so first, thank you, Jayanti, for this questions and organizing, this event, and particularly taking the subject of volunteering, which is really very, very important, relevant, for India, correct? Okay. Of course, I think whenever we think about CSR in India, it is more about philanthropy, giving something, okay? But today, I think for development, we need actually not only money, it is volunteering, the skill of the people, I think that's more important. So I think for the next 25 years, when I see, I think, we will see more digital, volunteering. And I'm seeing that in our organization, thanks to I would say it was one of the things we tried in COVID, because, during COVID, people are not able to go to the project site and everything. And we have a program, what we called Schneider Electric Teachers, where our employees are volunteering for, as a teacher in the different vocational training. And nowadays, people are, in fact, trying to find this, or, they are finding it more interesting. And, I see that, people will be using that, quite often. And that also leads to, bringing more skilled volunteering, so you can get expertise, for development sector, whether it is for health, education, anything, so that will also. And I see more collaborative, collaboration in the coming years, okay? Collaboration between the NGOs, corporates, as well as government, so, you can come up with together and promote more volunteering, I think. And there's also volunteering, it is not an organization's initiative, I think, when an organization participate or collaborate with some NGOs, I think, you can encourage your employees more for volunteering. And I think I see a trend also, and many NGOs are doing that.
Very valid points. And I think one important takeaway also is what COVID did to all of us. Yeah. It changed the way we look at everything in our lives, not just our own personal beliefs, but also something as important as volunteering. Yes, that was an important point. Dr. Vinita, would you like to add to this?
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So actually, all three of you are from a different space, and I am from different space. India at 75 definitely is young India, full of hope, full of enthusiasm. And I live with that part of the country, that India, because most of my students are in the age group of 17 to 35. Demographically, if we speak, I think 50% of the population is below 25 in our country, and 65% of the population is below 35. So this India is what we are preparing being an academician. And there are a few facets about this population. First, unlike what people believe, this is a population which is very, very high on integrity, unlike what people feel. Only thing is, definition of integrity as we interpret is the unity of thought, words, and deeds. This generation thinks and then says and then does what it really thinks. So that way they're very, very clear. This population has grown up on, if not abundance, but enough, while our generation grew up on scarcity. So I always have felt that you can only give what you feel you are full of. So this generation has this feeling of fullness and they're ready to give. Not just that, but I guess also the conversations and the ecosystem that we create, where they're willing to share, they're willing to spare. That itself is something which I guess we being an academicians and we being a part of the education setup, we can create an impact, and we've been doing it. Especially if you talk of my role or our institution, our basic core value is raising socially responsible, mindful leaders. Period. That's it. So the very fact that we are trying, and now, they may sound very abstract, that how do you raise socially responsible and mindful leaders? Volunteering to a big extent has been the way in which we have been making them socially responsible. So as I'm talking to you, I know there are about 200 students of mine somewhere sitting in the Bodhi Mahotsav with a plaque saying, "Save Niranjana." Niranjana is the river which has gone extinct. Niranjana is the river where every Buddhist will give their life for, but yet it's a river which doesn't exist anymore. So I guess being part of an academia, good that mindset wise this generation is ready. Only thing is we have to create that sense of responsibility in them, sense of being mindful in them, and then we are done, because I've always felt that it is not just the individual impact that volunteering does, it is that collective swell, collective inspiration, collective enthusiasm which volunteering creates. So, which is what we are trying and we are being. And I am very privileged that I'm custodian of that young population which is into it much more. Yeah.
Absolutely well said. And while we, of course, rely a lot on employee volunteering and for corporates to take the lead, I think it's also important for us to catch people young. And the only way we can do it is through our schools and colleges. So yes, definitely, academicians have to play a very important role over here, just as corporate leaders also have to play an equally important role. So yes, and thank you all, four of you. You've set the tone for today's discussion in a very nice way. And Mr. Chetan, I understand you have a time constraint, so I'm going to come to you first. Your foundation, the Tech Mahindra Foundation, works in the areas of education, employability, disability, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in 2023, you were able to clock in over 57,000 hours of volunteering, which is what a report said, which I think is amazing. So my question to you is, what strategies should an organization deploy to ensure that volunteer efforts are sustainable and contribute to long-term community development?
Thanks a lot, Jayanti. So thank you for also giving us that statistic of 57,000 hours clocked last year. In fact, it's been a bit of a come down because in the year 2019-20, the number had gone up to about 85,000 hours.
Wow.
And since then, we got hit because of COVID, and especially in the IT sector, because we still are following a hybrid approach to work. We're trying hard to bring it back to those numbers, to those levels, and even exceed. However, one clear change that I've seen is that we know that volunteering cannot just be counted by the number of hours. It's about what is it that people bring with them to the table, what is the kind of intent, the passion with which they come. So, and that's something where I am seeing post COVID that there is a very real change in terms of employees wanting to engage in the real sense. And what we as a corporate have done, in fact, in so many ways, this is enshrined in the Mahindra philosophy of RISE. So, as you know, Mahindra Group has this philosophy of RISE, which
Yes.
basically means that, everybody should rise. It's not just the company or its employees or its shareholders, but there it is important for a corporate to ensure, or a corporate house to ensure that we as a society, we as a community, we as a nation rise together. And that's something which, as I said, is enshrined in the way that the Mahindras look at this idea. While there are certain targets that need to be achieved when it comes to volunteering, but the way that we've gone about doing this, I'll just give you a few examples and some of my own insights in terms of how we do this. So while it's while most companies, including us, try and organize a number of events around which we have employee engagement and get volunteers to come. And I'm not understating the importance of these events. Events, of course, get in a lot of people at the same time. But I think the overall approach towards volunteering has to move from just merely being events to activities.
Yeah.
Because when you plan your volunteering around specific activities, you could do, a number of things within communities over time, which can actually bring about sustainable change. So instead of saying that, okay, we'll just organize these events around the major days, which most of the companies do, and of course we have to continue to do these. But what we are trying is that if we can get a set of our employees engaged with the projects that we at Tech Mahindra Foundation implement, whether it is in education or employability or disability, those we are seeing bring far more impactful results over time, because that way the employees get to see the true value of the joy of giving.
Sure.
So that's something that I would recommend that we should do, that we should move to activities instead of events. Second, it's important to create a bouquet of options for people to choose from, because volunteering is not just normally when we think of people coming to volunteer, you think of them coming and taking part in some event or going to a classroom and teaching and things like that. However, there are a number of ways by which people can contribute, which are, other than these which are normally perceived. So we've had cases where people from the HR team at Tech Mahindra, for example, have supported NGOs that we work with to improve their HR processes. And the same thing could be true for the finance team, for example. We've had volunteers from our tax and compliance team, just to give you an example, to work with some of the NGOs to improve their compliance processes. So there are so many ways by which you can think of volunteering, which is beyond just the traditional way in which it has been thought. Third, it's very important to ensure feedback to the volunteers as to what has really been the impact of, of whatever time or effort that they put in. So it's important for organizations to create a strong feedback loop. If I go out and volunteer and spend, let's say, 3-4 hours, and I get to know later on that, okay, because of those 3-4 hours that I gave, these were the benefits that accrued. Okay, my propensity to go back and repeat that process goes up significantly. So it's important for organizations not to leave this as just a one-off exercise, but create that feedback loop, which is important. Also, specific days around volunteering always help. In the Mahindra Group, we have a Mahindra Volunteering Day. So 5th December of every year is when we celebrate the Mahindra Volunteering Day, and employees from all the group companies, not just Tech Mahindra, but all Mahindra group companies are encouraged to devote some time around volunteering. And through this, over one day, you get a number of people, and they take the necessary approvals from their respective bosses and go out and work. So in so many different ways, we have tried to leverage the power of people, of employees, stepping out of their regular work and giving back time to the Society for Volunteering. So these are just some of the ways which I would say, and I think to end this, one of the things that we at Tech Mahindra Foundation take a lot of pride in is the fact that we are very closely engaged with the beneficiary segment who we work with. So whether it is the youth who are part of our skill development program or the children who are part of our education program, you can, once you go and spend time in the field, you can see the tangible impact of what we are doing. And it's extremely important for corporates to make sure that for volunteering to really work and work at impact, it's important for this connect with the beneficiaries to be very strongly there, because at the end of the day, it's about how this kind of an experience really moves you within to want to come back and do more. So that's what I would say, Jayanti, as in response to your question.
So a lot of very important points, and the way you should also keep the beneficiaries involved and updated, and I think that's a great way also to make sure that whatever you're doing is very successful, because I mean, volunteering is not also a question of just what you assume is good for somebody. It has to be actually what the beneficiary also wants, and that's something which also came out, I thought, as a takeaway from what you said. Great insights, Mr. Chetan. I really like them. And I hope, most welcome. I mean, really, you shared a lot of very important points. And to the participants, if you have any questions, please go ahead and use the chat box. And
I'm afraid I will have to leave in 5 minutes. So if there's any question, I'll be more than happy to take.
So in case a question comes right now, yes, definitely. But if the question comes later, we will reach out to you and share it with the participants too.
Sure. Please do. I'm more than happy. Thank you so much.
Great. So I'm going to come to you, Ms. Preeti. So Accenture, I know you have a lot of amazing programs too, and you believe in creating 360-degree value and embedding social impact in everything that you do. I have also been many years back in the earlier, I was with United Way Mumbai before I came to United Way India, and at that time we did, work with Accenture also on some of these programs. So I'm aware of how much you believe in the power of volunteering, and it goes right through the organization. So my question to you is, what are some of the best practices that India Inc. can adopt from the world when it comes to volunteering?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think it's a great question. I think first it starts with at the topmost level, any company needs to firstly commit to a vision. And just like in Accenture, we have a vision, and the target also needs to be external and internal. I think systemic change does not happen when you make it volunteering and for a part of society which is not already there as part of your own firm. So it's two-pronged. One, Accenture took on a goal, and to say that we want to impact inclusion and diversity is a very good thought, but what does it mean in reality? So, as part of the vision and then the mission and the goal, our firm took on the goal of 50-50 in gender inclusion by 2025. And the very fact that I am here today as one of the leaders, a woman as well, speaking in a forum like this, I think Accenture is truly driving that change. And that is, I feel very proud to be a part of that firm. But at the same time, we can kind of replicate the same model across all the other companies as well. And if we were to do that and drive a 50-50 target internally, then that doesn't need volunteering. I'm sorry, it's a little step outside, but it's a target to begin with yourself. Charity begins at home, like they say. And the second aspect is that externally as well, you take on a target. So for example, in CSR, there is a vision. We want to be inclusive, diverse. We want to, support sustainability and so many others. And then what does that mean from a CSR India standpoint? So CSR India drives at an overall level. But now comes the real test, which is when the litmus test is when it comes down to smaller teams, and it would be for any firm, a function, or a particular practice. How do they take that forward and drive volunteerism? And volunteerism, when you drive it, and I drive that primarily for our strategy and consulting team in India. So it's about 5,000 employees. Like Dr. Vinita said, they are very clear. They have a greater sense of inner purpose. And the fact that they've chosen Accenture, one of the reasons also is because they want to make a difference. They are consultants. They want to also make a very large difference either on a project or in some of these other activities. So what we've done is we brought them together, and it's a best practice I'm sharing. And we decided what is one social cause that we want to take up, what is the one environmental cause we want to take up. We didn't want to dilute it. So that's very important. Don't dilute and take up 10 causes, take up one. And we took up in the social, our team has taken up the cause for educating the underprivileged. So in that, we divided into three again. And sorry, I'm getting a little detailed, but it's just to show how the example translates further. We took on I Give, and we took on I Teach and I Mentor. I Give is a program which talks about every year, we're going to ensure most of our NGOs, which is about 10 we have taken up, we're going to support them with providing sports goods, stationery, books, and so on and so forth. Each of these strategy consultants sitting in India have enough number of books which just sit with dust in their houses. So we ask them to bring it together, and we support all these. So that's one level of volunteerism, which is one-time based, moment based, but it really works. And we create these activities in office. In fact, one is going to start for us in February again. And in that, all of the employees are going to be brought. It's an event, and it goes on for a month, and so on and so forth. The second aspect is we brought I Teach. Now, each one of us wants to teach children in some way, and we are very focused on underprivileged children, girl child, and the people with disability. Now, for that, all of us are giving them life skills, because that's something as strategy and consultants we can do a better job of. We're giving them presentation skills, digital skills, and so on and so forth. So that's volunteering hours. But we take it a step further. And we go to I Mentor, where we say we will transform lives. Net we'll drive results. So we have this year taken on 75 women and underprivileged youth. And our objective is to get them a job. Our second objective is to get them into entrepreneurship and join our VACT program, which is a program where then we track them and support them through the entire journey of entrepreneurship. So that's real. And growth is something that we will drive for them as a team. And the second aspect is we took on sustainability as well in the same scenario. So if any company has to start with a vision and then have a CSR team, till leaders get involved and have their own smaller cohorts driving an impact, it does not work. And the fact that when you engage, and then for further, an individual or a group of people engaged with an NGO, that's where real connections are formed. When you know a Jyoti, and you know Jyoti is a girl who is really full of life, wants to really become somebody who can be in police one day, then I think that connection is for life. You don't look back from that. And I think if we drive it systemically like that, we can support many more Jyotis.
So that was really amazing. I think, firstly, the power of collaboration, collective impact, believing in what you're doing, and actually being the driving force. That was amazing. You gave a few live examples, which also really helped, throw a lot of light on this particular question. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to come to you now, Dr. Vinita. And I am Bodh Gaya. You have a very active student-led club called Pragati. I read about this on your site. which engages in a lot of impactful community programs and activities. You too play a very major role in encouraging this club's activities. You also mentioned this when you spoke initially, and about what the students are doing even right now. That actually is very relevant to this question too. So India, as you also mentioned, is a young nation, and it is students such as those from your institution that will contribute and play a crucial role in shaping new India. And we are now looking at India in 2047. How can we encourage and facilitate greater youth involvement in volunteering activities to contribute to the overall development of the community? Over to you.
So thank you. That's a very, very relevant question, especially to an academician, because we are expected to show them the way, teach them the way, being teachers ourselves. As I mentioned, that the current generation by mindset is very giving, is much more open to sharing because they feel they are full within. But having said that, we still need to show them the way. Now, when I mentioned, if you talk about Ayurveda journey in 2018, when we started, when I came, our students, because of the land which we were in, they had already started calling themselves as #enlightening IIM. So I stopped it. I said, don't you think it's too loud a statement? Let's wait. And today, yes, I feel that we are a little more closer to that, not just because of our geography, but the way we have taken on ourselves this whole objective of creating or raising more socially responsible and mindful leaders. Because see, it is the vision of these youngsters which is going to create a destiny for the nation. Now, how do we operationalize it? One is, yes, of course, you have read it about the whole concept of Pragati, the concept of CSR Club. But I would go a little farther than that choosing the value itself, like in management education, there's something called AASB accreditation, and they really stress hard on choosing the core value. So we were very lucky that very early on, we decided that when a business has to move from to do to be, let's take a pioneering step. And that's where the whole vision of the school itself defined for ourselves that we have to go this way. Now, structurally, yes, whether it is teaching credit courses like emotional intelligence, mindfulness, science of well-being, science of giving, all that as a part of the structure of the course. Gen Zs actually go to the villages. So if I can quote it, we have something called Jivika. It's a big, huge group working in this part of the country. But when my 18-year-old IPM students not just went there to tick the box, they actually worked for two months continuously. And recently I'd gone there, and those Jivika Jewar sisters, like Didis as they call themselves, they came back, ma'am, aapke bacche kitne pyare hain. They developed the website for them, they developed the product portfolio, they developed the store layout, internal manual, purchase manual, and a whole lot, which possibly for them would have taken decades. So, and while doing so, the students were so happy doing that. They've actually saw it on ground that how their efforts, little teeny efforts from their side, were creating such a compounding impact on the others. So which is what I was saying, it's not just the individual effort, but the swell effect that we create through volunteering. When it happens on the campus, you make it cool to be a giver. Yeah. And then, the current generation actually gets into this whole act, oh, I'm more cooler than you because I give more. So then creating a whole lot of opportunities. So whether it is connecting to the larger issues like saving water, saving rivers, saving Mother Earth or reuse, whatever that cause that you give it to them, they very enthusiastically pick it up. And that's where you say you sow the seed and you give them the pleasure of sharing and caring and giving. And once having tasted that pleasure, they possibly get very addicted to it because they know that's the real thing. And we assume when they reach to Preeti and to Abhimanyu, they will continue to live in that spirit, But the seed has to be sown either very young in the campus school, or if not, then at least on a B school campus. Yeah.
You also raised some very important questions, how you can make this aspirational for students to want to do something. And then this is sort of a good competition to have, like everyone wanting to do something more so that you want to shine a little more, not just for yourself, but because you want the community also to benefit. So what a lovely way to actually inspire others to want to be a part of the movement and then really feel good about it too. So those are some really interesting points that you shared. Mr. Abhimanyu, I'm going to come to you now. So Schneider Electric's mantra is progress with sustainability. I'm aware of that. And you have some amazing social mentorship programs where you empower youth in community programs. I know Schneider Electric encourages employees to give back to communities through mentoring, training, and volunteering. So in your experience, how does volunteering contribute to the establishment of a culture of social responsibility and increased employee engagement?
Yeah, in fact, thanks for the question. In fact, I think I can say that definitely volunteering plays, a very, very important role, to cultivate the culture of social responsibility and employee engagement. I can tell you, it is not only increase the employee engagement. In fact, it helps to attract talents also, because when our employees share their experience with their friends and other people, I think that also helps definitely. And through voluntary activities, the employees, what they get is an opportunity to actively participate, in addressing some social issues, environmental challenges, and fostering, sense of some commitment toward the society and environmental challenge. Because normally, in the day-to-day work, people are so busy, they don't even get an opportunity to interact with the society and understand what exactly the challenge is. Okay, but through this voluntary activity, people get this opportunity. And I will just in Schneider believe that access to energy is one of the, let's say, fundamental rights, and each and every people in this planet must have access to energy. And we have a program where we encourage our employee to participate in some rural electrification project. Of course, in India today, I think most of the houses are electrified, but still you will find, let's say, some underserved community, whether it is slums or in some forest areas, still people. Okay, so we encourage employees to go and do project. And every year we see few employees who go spend almost 3 days in the deep forest where there is absolutely nothing. They have to, they will stay in the school probably or some community without any facilities. But when they come back and we have seen their feeling, it's really so they understand now why we say that the access to energy is a fundamental right, because unless you experience that you will not. Okay, so definitely they now understand why companies saying that. Okay, and also when they do involved in the volunteering, they also get an opportunity to speak to the societies, correct? Okay, and they empathy and all those things, the teamwork, correct? When you are staying in a forest without any facilities for 3 days, of course I think you need to work as a team. Okay, and that teamwork also is it collaborates within that employees. Okay, and also I think more important, there is a sense of purpose. I think that also they see that why. Okay, so and I think that also helps their communication skill, leadership skills. Okay, so all this, I think the volunteering plays important to let's say develop within the employees, and which definitely helps to improve the or let's say instill the company culture within the employees, and also it helps them to be motivated. I think that's really helps.
So you also shared some really great points, because yes, energy is a fundamental right, I believe. And you also said that we take it as granted that all of us have electricity, and it's not something which is we assume that even if it is rural areas, electricity is there, even if it's not there 100%, 70-80% is there. But it's actually quite surprising sometimes that even communities very close to urban areas are off the grid, and that is where programs like what you have really make a lot of difference, because firstly, of course, great sensitization for anyone who's working on something which we take as a given, because our whole lives are, revolve around the fact that we have energy and electricity to run everything for us. And your employees, as you said, when they go and volunteering and they come back as different people, it's a huge humbling exercise when you go and see how people are managing. And then it makes them also, I'm sure, work on not just that one element of energy, but on everything else, which is required to make that a whole community as a whole, the family as a whole. And I've seen that too through our programs, that eventually you start adding so many elements to your volunteering activities, because you एक चीज ठीक किया, एक और चीज आता है. So you realize that unless you look at the whole thing holistically, you're not probably addressing an issue on which you are volunteering. And that, I think, makes everybody better human beings for sure. So we've heard some amazing
and
insights.
in fact, I will just add,
Please go ahead.
In fact, it encourages innovation. In fact, I can give another example. Like one of our employees in France, he spent in Africa, few weeks on a vacation. But then he saw that women are going almost. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Please go ahead.
Okay. So yeah. So see, he saw that the women are walking almost few kilometers to fetch a pot of water. And then he came up, with the idea, how can I develop a product which can help, to pump water in those areas where there is no electricity using solar energy. And he came up with a great product. So it also encourages, when, employees are engaged, to solve some of the social challenges, they will come up with some ideas also, which will also help the organization.
Very valid point. And if anybody wants to add to this, please do feel free to do that. So we have had some amazing insights from all of you. I mean, the corporate perspective, from the volunteering point of view, employee point of view, how we are building better citizens by, working with students. So it's been, very exciting to hear all your examples, and also what have been the learnings you yourself personally have been able to sort of experience when you have worked on volunteering programs. So I have a question which is now common to all of you. So what advice do you have for organizations looking to start or enhance their volunteering initiatives to maximize their impact on social changes? Because all of you have really amazing programs already, but what about an organization that is just going to start on a volunteering program? What would be the advice that you would want to give them? Anybody can go first.
Yeah, I can go first then, since
Sure.
there's a long pause. I think if you're starting off, start small, but have a vision. I think the first thing is to have a vision. A lot of times what happens is we get into the thick of things and we lose focus of where do we want to go. And I think the best part of driving that vision is drive it bottoms up instead of top down. That would be my advice. So send out maybe, and these are just ideas, send out a survey to all your people. That's how I did it. I did it for 5,000 employees. I'm assuming any organization doing it around that range, maybe somewhere they can take a sample group and send it and say, what would you like to? Give them options, bring them to a forum. You also get people very involved and engaged, which is one way of talent retention. But you ask, okay, what can we drive towards? Take one cause, one and one only. Don't even go to and say, okay, let's just boil it down to education for underprivileged. Let that be the theme. Then take up a target. That's the second big step. Now, the target can be for a year, but I would say take a long-term target that in 3 years, I want to transform 1 million lives of the underprivileged children in our country by giving them education and getting them through college. A very actionable ask. Then work backwards and say, okay, now how do we work towards it and drive it? That's a better way of doing it. And just there will be many more people who'll reach out and say, I have this initiative. Don't lose your focus. Stick to this. Because when you stick to it, you take the entire organization on one journey. And that one journey becomes far more powerful than a few smaller ones, which then, kind of get lost somewhere in the system. So I think that is the first big. The second big aspect is, okay, I've cracked what I want to do, but how will I do it? Employees and volunteerism is one dimension of the game. The second and the biggest part is the ecosystem partners. And in ecosystem partners, you have NGOs who are going to help you, but you will also have more than the NGOs, the government, the fundings, the platforms where you will drive it and really take it to the entire sector. So I think getting that one partnership in the government only for education, I'm just taking it as an example, and then getting few NGOs. And like how I started, we did not go with 15 NGOs. We went with 5, but meaningful ones that truly met what we wanted. And our vision was clear. It had to be a woman at the core, underprivileged children, men later, but women first, people with disability second, and then the third. If that's our focus, then that's how we went. So you can do the same. So that's the third step, getting your ecosystem right. And then the fourth is, how will you literally drive this? So appointing people who really believe in the cause. For example, the way I chose my core team is based on some people who reached out to me and said, my inner purpose in life is really to make a difference. And the fact that I'm in strategy and consulting, I have sleepless nights and I wake up thinking, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? There are people like them. There are actually people who have an identity crisis saying, what am I doing with my life? So get them, and that helps you with talent retention, but also helps you with the cause. And they will drive it like nobody else will, because one of the simple rules I've had is I will not take on anybody by assignment. The person has to truly believe in it and volunteer, because that's the only way it works. So this is not a project. This is driven by inner will and inner sense of purpose. So that's the fourth element. And then the fifth is track it. And you need a very strong driver, leader at the top with 5 more leaders, a strong custodian. So in my world, there are 2 other managing directors who strongly believed in the cause. Now, I had another 85, but I only focused on those 2. And with the support of those 2, we were able to get 30% work done, or 30% of our people engaged. So start there and then build on the next level. That would be my guidance on how to approach it.
I liked all the points you raised, but the one I liked the most was, getting those people who wake up in the morning thinking, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
I think I love that, because really, if you're able to find those people and get them to work with you, I think half your battle is over there itself, because there is a common purpose in what you're doing and why you're doing. And they could come from any walk of life. Doesn't have to be somebody who has a social sector background or something. We have so many who are making that jump now from different sectors and wanting to work in the social sector with just this one objective, that I need to do something with this one life I have. So yes, that was
I wanted to make one more point, because we're making it.
Sure.
One of the people who volunteered reached out to me, and this is a very touching story for me, so I wanted to share. One of the person who reached out, he's driving now a mentorship program for me for the underprivileged. And he shared his story and he said, I am from the slums of Delhi. I reached somehow I worked very, very hard somehow. And I thought I will not be the same person. And he somehow got selected in one of the contests. And somehow, I don't know how, he has made it to Accenture Strategy and Consulting. And he is such a story. He's such an inspirational story. But the fact that he raised his hand and he said, I understand these stories and I want to change many more lives, like somehow my life has changed. That is the true power. And the fact that our company gave this person a chance in the firm, and now he's going to be driving for many more. I think that's such a beautiful story of how it comes into action.
Fantastic. So you need to find those role models also. Absolutely. Great. Yes.
Going by the role models, I think coming from academic space, I would love to see more and more people from the corporate coming and doing this volunteering on campus, because I know the kind of profound impact some of the executives have had on our students. Like the very act of coming and spending time with them, solving their problems, sometimes coming and playing basketball with them at 2 a.m. in the night. And they recognize that this person is working in such a big four and this and that, and still they are ready to give a day of their life on campus. So when they go to that stage, that feeling is always in them that, okay, somebody did it for me, now I am obliged. See, the whole idea is that how this awareness, collective awareness of the social obligation is to be created. It's just one person lighting lamp or the other. And it's much more better, rather than teaching people fish, rather than giving them fish, teaching them how to do fishing. So which is where I feel that any kind of volunteering, if done on a campus, whether it is in terms of skill transfer, knowledge transfer, anything, it will have such a compounding impact. So a very, very strong appeal to everybody who's listening that campuses are one of the best places to spare your time and your energy, because then it is not just one-off event, it has a multiplier effect. There are about hundreds and thousands of people who are watching it, and then they are getting motivated to do similar thing in their own life and then they grow big. So that was one part. Secondly, yes, no matter where we are in whichever space, celebrating the givers is very critical. They are generally the small, shy ones, the introverts ones. And especially in a world where competitiveness is taking all the glory and all the highlights, it is important for head of the institutions like me or corporate heads like you to single out them and give them the due glory. So that's also very important, that we celebrate such acts of kindness, celebrate such acts of compassion, and make them the true role model, true story that we can make them to be. Definitely this whole conversation of responsible leadership, sustainability, all that as a part of the curriculum, as a part of the training ground, yes, is also a collective responsibility of all of us who are in this profession of shaping minds. So that we completely understand, and I'm so glad that this forum gave me the opportunity to at least connect with 3 to 4 more passionate people about it. So at least we will have a group where we can take it forward in much more meaningful way.
You two raise, some really very good takeaways. And as you said, I love such sessions where you get such wonderful feedback and such wonderful points to actually ponder on. Like you said, you pass it forward, right? When you see something good happening to you, you want to pass it forward. You want to also make sure that you are able to be a part of something which is going to be a larger thing as it snowballs into, something bigger. So that, and you said a lot of other things. How do we celebrate the givers? There are acts of kindness. We have to acknowledge them. So nobody who's volunteering is doing it for self-acknowledgement. That's clear. But yes, sometimes it does help a lot if that act is acknowledged, because then not just does it give you a feeling of satisfaction, but a feeling of wanting to do a lot more. Yes, so they're very, very valid points. So I know we are a little going to run out of time soon, but Mr. Abhimanyu, we have.
I think most of the points, I think there has been many points discussed. I will just try to touch on 2 points. I think,
Sure.
If an organization is starting, I think it's very important the volunteering has to be aligned with the organization's core values, correct? Okay. Otherwise, it gets diverted, So I think, the moment it is aligned with the core values, it creates sense of purpose, cohesion, and, increase the commitment also for, I think that's is very, very important. And what we have also seen from our experiences, of course, every employees, sometimes have different inclinations of different types of social activities. Of course, there is always a balance we need to have. You cannot give freedom to any kind of voluntary. It has to be aligned. But I think it is very important to give a recipe, a menu, different, which will probably interest to barriers like employees, okay, because some may be interested, let's say, to support an old age home. Some may be interested, working towards like contributing towards environment. Some will be like more interested for children's, So I think that also the different tailor opportunity, but again, aligned with the long-term mission of the organization. Okay, I think that's important.
So yes, you really added, some really very valid points too. So as you said very, very correctly, employees have different likes, different strengths also. But Ms. Preeti also said this, that you have to do some sort of a dipstick survey to understand what is it that the employees really like. So I'm glad that both of you touched upon this very important point, because there could be n number of volunteering opportunities, but you also need to be able to measure what you're doing. If you want to see what as a group is the impact that you have, having that menu of options sometimes and a finite menu, it definitely goes a long way in making sure that we are able to then take credit for something which is tangible and impactful, measurable, on which then you can speak and you can develop on that. Instead of doing and I'm not at all saying that smaller acts of kindness are not needed. They are, definitely.
Yes.
But if you're looking at something from, say, a corporate point of view or an academic institution point of view, you're talking of something big. We're talking of actually making a huge impact, which can then be taken forward from, group after group. So then it definitely helps to have a more structured volunteering program. We are just 1 minute off time now. So it's really been an amazing 1 hour of discussion.
Jayanti, sorry to interrupt, but you can extend for, by 10 minutes.
Okay, great. So then I still have one last question. I thought we had a hard stop. So we have discussed it in some ways, when we're looking now at doing it at a country level. We do it all in our organizations, but we are talking of how do we reach that pinnacle of volunteering as in 2047, where we can say like the entire country follows a mantra of volunteering and follows a ethos of volunteering. So how do you think we can institutionalize volunteering in our country as we move ahead? Do you think it is possible? And any suggestions? Anybody would like to go for this?
I think I will just touch up on maybe Preeti,
No.
Okay. I think here we probably, of course, in India, philanthropic, I think, it's a part of our culture.
Yes.
But I think that is not institutionalized, correct? Okay, somebody just, some act of kindness. I think here the education system really can play a very, very important role, okay, where we include, this volunteering as a part of the curriculum. In fact, when I look at, some of the developed country like US and all those things, it's a part of they encourage volunteering at a very small, when they're studying the school itself, I think that's very, very important, and that will really help, to institutionalize volunteering. And probably there should be some credit, in the education system for volunteering, and that's how I will suggest. That's my view.
To an extent, I completely agree to you what you were saying, Mr. Abhimanyu, but I just wanted to tell you that when it comes to business schools, there is a survey where we figure out that which are the more socially responsible business schools. Almost the top 10 or top 20 performers, 50% of them are Indian schools. And in all these standardization, recently there are chapters or there are things added, which is all about sustainability and all about responsible leadership. We are doing exceptionally high there. In fact, if I share recently that there was one such deans conference where more than 900 deans and directors were there, and the entire conversation was how to make Indian business schools more oriented towards creating sustainable leaders. And the convener of the conference said that we recognize that all the Western schools are finding it very difficult. So what we have done is we have taken a small case, a white paper or a research paper based on a school in India, and we are going to show you through impact sheets, through Excel sheets, as to how they have done it. And for almost half an hour, that conversation went on. explaining to the dean's directors how to do it. And after that, there was about 6 to 7 minutes of standing ovation. And the best part was, after that, my life became very easy, because all that I had to do in that conference of about 1,000 people was just to say that case study was based on my business skill. So yes, and it's not just me, quite a few of are doing a really good work, whether it is volunteering by students, adopting villages, actually going and doing some meaningful work in rural India. But I guess, yes, you're right. This also has to be done at a school, senior secondary and secondary level. So how do we take it? Yes, that's where I had requested, that the example is the best way. How do we motivate people, especially those who had arrived, when they come back and give? It serves as a great role model. So how we, and that's the reason, as a school, we do a lot of such work with schools. Because being a big daddy in an education space, we can do it for lesser known schools or schools which are handling younger kids. But corporate possibly can even join hands with the academia to make this happen.
Yeah. And my suggestion was, and I really like the ideas everyone's education system is at the core. But my thought was beyond the education system. The people who moved on from college, they've gone on to live their lives, etc. I think at the core, it's the government and some of the major players in the overall ecosystem. So corporates, media sector as a big one, to start either a campaign or a portfolio. Like today, you have an education minister. You don't have a minister, you have a minister for social sector. But do we know that there is a volunteering platform, a digital platform, or an app like you have DigiYatra, you have DigiLocker? Can you have for not volunteer, better word, but where people can log in? It's available. It links to the availability of the youth, the people who are there, they log in. And this is a mechanism for people to see, either get them a job or to volunteer their hours, but to become a part of the ecosystem. I think if the government is able to crack that, just like they did for Aadhaar, it is not, volunteering will be a small part of the ecosystem that solves for the problem of employment, empowerment in one portfolio. And volunteering will then, you will not even need to have a discussion because it will already be there. And then incentivization to small, medium businesses or to corporates to say, if you volunteer hours here, it has some sort of incentive into their either tax returns, or I don't know, but I'm saying that I think is a systemic change then. One, and it does, I don't know if this has been done by any country, but I mean,
Yes.
says you can't do it.
So I know India at 75 has the National Volunteering Grid, and that is an IT platform designed to promote and facilitate the ecosystem of structured volunteering. I think we need to firstly publicize this more and build on this more, and make it probably easier for people to access this. I mean, it's a great initiative which has been started by India at 75, and I know a lot of thought has gone beyond this. And Ms. Preeti, the suggestions that you made are amazing. I mean, if we do have this really robust, easily accessible app, maybe where people can easily just log in and understand what needs to be done. That was the objective with which the National Volunteering Grid was also put together. It definitely needs to be publicized a lot more. I was a part of the discussion initially when the discussions first started, at India at 75. And so what you are saying actually is very correct. If we have this, and this is, everyone should know about this. The corporate should know about this. College students should know about this. A common man should know about it, who may be having a skill set that he just wants to do to give back to community, And that is where it becomes like an institutionalized thing, and it becomes like a much more structured movement through the country. We do have it in us to do it because Indians are by nature very aligned and inclined to give back. It's there in our cultures also, to be able to give back to communities. So
I have a fun line. I just came up with it. Sab milke naukri banao.
I think we all need to meet more frequently and have these discussions, because we've had such a great 1 hour plus conversation where we've been able to share insights from corporate sector, from from an institution or academic. So it's really been fantastic speaking to all of you. So Ms. Preeti, Mr. Abhimanyu, Dr. Vinita, and Mr. Chetan, who is not here right now, he had to step off. Thank you so much for spending time and sharing your insights. And thank you also, India at 75, Vaishali, for getting us all together on this platform. I think this has been a great interaction, free and frank, and we've been able to share our a lot of takeaways from here. So thank you all very much.
Thanks.
Thank
you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone, and looking forward to working closely with all of you for
Sure.
volunteering initiative of India
Absolutely.
75. Thank you
Since
so
we are all
much.
believers, yes, you can take it as a yes from all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Pleasure.